Welcome to the Productive Attorney, where we try and make your life more productive so you can do the things that you want to do. Today I'm going to talk about something, and I'm going to give the date. I normally don't give dates on this podcast. This will probably be released weeks after I record this, but today is November 7th, 2021, and today I'm going to talk about something that is I see in the future that is going to disrupt the legal profession, and I just want to see whether or not this podcast ever comes true or not. And I usually tell war stories or tell something that's happened in the past that relate to the topic. And so I'm going to tell a couple stories and then we'll get to the topic. But the topic today is about disruption of the legal industry. And by that, I mean lawyers not being able to do their practice the way that they've been doing it. Such as like Amazon has disrupted the retail industry, how Uber and Lyft disrupted the taxi industry. The legal industry has not been disrupted, not in its entirety, ever. I cannot think of a time that it has been. Well, the war stories I want to talk about are when particular parts of the legal industry have been disrupted, very small parts. For example, and I'm going to talk about both in Texas. One is in the area of medical malpractice. Medical malpractice, when I started, was an area that was blowing and going. There were lawyers who actually I saw do depositions who looked like they'd been to medical school, in some cases had been to medical school. And there were people who specialized in it and spent their lives on it. We had a very famous case here in Tarrant County where an individual had a diseased lung and a healthy lung, and the doctor went in and removed the healthy lung, leaving him with only a diseased lung. And that case settled for $40 to $50 million. There were no caps then. There were no problems back then. A constitutional amendment was passed here in Texas. It barely passed, 51 to 49. It allowed the legislature to make changes regarding medical malpractice, constitutional changes, and they made it so that it was very difficult to bring medical malpractice cases. They capped the amount of damages that you could recover. They required expert reports before filing lawsuits so that attorneys would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to see whether they had a case or not, and all sorts of other restrictions in these cases. It worked. The restrictions worked. Filings of medical malpractice cases went down 90%, and they've stayed there. Medical malpractice cases are few and far between. There are very few lawyers who do medical malpractice cases, and the legislature came in and disrupted the medical malpractice legal industry in Texas. It's also happened in the asbestos and silica world. The legislature came in and changed the laws regarding asbestos and silica so that people had to reach a certain medical threshold to go forward with their case. The medical threshold was made so high that there are people out there who are sick, but they don't qualify. And as a result, they took away the incentives to go forward with these cases. In addition, silica and asbestos had been regulated better and were not being used as widely, and so the cases were going down anyways. But that industry was disrupted by change. But never have we seen in the 32 years that I've been practicing, have we seen the whole industry disrupted. It's coming. I'm telling right now, every lawyer out here is about to be affected, and most lawyers don't even know it's coming. It started in Utah of all places, where they had what they called a regulatory sandbox. And what they allowed in Utah was they started tinkering with the idea of non-lawyers owning law firms. And so what's the problem with that? What's the problem with a non-lawyer owning a law firm? A couple things are wrong with that. Number one is if non-lawyers own law firms, which include hedge funds and big business and banks and other financial institutions, lawyers don't make the profits off that. The financial institutions and the banks and all that make the profits off of it. And second is there's a huge divergence between what's in the client's best interest and what's in the firm's financial best interest. Some would say that big law looks out for its financial best interest more than the client's. I think that's facetious. I think every lawyer who practices takes their ethics seriously. and does things in the best interest of the client. But there are close calls when finance versus client come in, and there are times that the financial pressures will make a lawyer lean towards the finance as opposed to the best interest of the client. So that was a concern, and it was just they were trying it out in Utah, and then Arizona came in, and Arizona has passed a law, and this law is much more. It's not a regulatory sandbox. It is let's go, let's make this happen. And so in Arizona, you can have non-lawyers owning law firms. It's allowed, and they're called alternate business structures. So that can happen. The other thing that's happening in Arizona is that there are non-lawyers who can practice law. They are called legal paraprofessionals, or LPs for short, non-lawyer legal paraprofessionals. And they can assist people in Arizona in simple legal matters such as uncontested divorce, getting a TRO, drafting a will, contesting a traffic ticket, and more. Some of the stuff that is less expensive, less lucrative, they're saying that non-lawyers can come in and represent people in there. So you are going to have in Arizona non-lawyers in court representing people, and these lawyers don't have to have a law degree and don't have to have passed the bar. In fact, they don't even have to have a college degree. They can come in and represent. They're supposed to be bound by the ethics, the same ethics as lawyers are, but you're going to have non-lawyers, some without any education or any credentials, representing people in courts in Arizona. So what you used to have, and there's another thing that's been happening lately that is going to contribute to the disruption of the legal industry, and that is if you pass the Uniform Bar Exam, the UBE, and you are one of the many states who participate in that, then you qualify to become a member of the bar in any of those states. And I believe there's 28, but I'd have to go back and look it up. But nonetheless, you can be an attorney, pass the bar, and be licensed in 28 states if you want to. Now, you have to pay the bar dues and all that, so it doesn't make sense to do that, but you can easily be working in Texas and be licensed in Michigan. And if they're all part of the UBE, then you can do both. And now with what we've experienced with the pandemic and people being more comfortable with attorneys working remotely, attorneys can work in their house in Texas, and if they pass the UBE and get licensed there, they could do their work for Michigan law firms. So what's happened is the homogenization of lawyers to the point where you used to be only Texas lawyers could practice in Texas, and you had to take the Texas bar, and that's it. That's the only person who could represent somebody in court. And that would make it so that we essentially had a monopoly on the legal industry. And I will tell you, lawyers have become lazy with this monopoly. They have become believers in the fact that they're $400 an hour, or in some cases, I've seen $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour, that their fee in their mind has rationalized that is fair and that is just. Well, I will tell you that what's going to happen with Arizona is already starting to happen in California and in Florida. And if either one of those two dominoes fall, if Florida falls or California falls, and they have the same type of structure as this, what's going to happen is there's no lawyer that's going to be able to charge $1,400 an hour anymore. There is a company called LegalZoom that went public this summer. They now have a market capitalization of $7 billion. They've gone into Arizona. They've set up an alternate business structure. And LegalZoom is now going to come in and do things like, we will review any document you send us for $100. The thing of having a $7 billion market cap is you can lose money for a while to get a bunch of business. So lawyers out there who review wills and trusts and contracts and property documents and prepare these things, we'll prepare them for $100 and we'll review them for $100. And you're like, how can they do that? Well, they're LegalZoom. And pretty soon we're going to have Amazon law, and we're going to have Apple law, and we're going to have Facebook law, and we're going to have Google law, and we're going to have all these people come in and disrupt our industry. And the final tipping is going to be when they start buying all these other law firms up that are the big law firms. So they're going to get the mom and pops out of business, the smaller law firms, the solo practitioners, the ones that you see on the street that do criminal and wills and traffic tickets. Those lawyers will be gone. When the paraprofessionals come in, those lawyers are done. And on the minor criminal stuff, there's no way anybody could compete with that. Then the next level up is going to be getting into some more things that can be homogenized. They're going to get non-legal paraprofessionals to get more and more legal business, come in and do more and more of what lawyers do. And then on the top end, what you're going to see is you're going to see some of the bigger firms being bought out. When hedge funds come in and start buying out AmLaw 100 law firms, then you're going to know that we're in real trouble. And you're saying, well, how would that happen? How would a AmLaw come in and buy out a top 100 firm? Those partners wouldn't let it happen. Are you kidding me? Never underestimate the greed of the American legal partner. If you're 62 years old and you have a large interest as a partner, or even a smaller interest as a partner in a big firm, and a hedge fund comes in and says, we want to own 25% of your business and we're going to pay you $500 million. And you do the math, and your 1% in the company is worth $5 million, or your 2% in the company is worth $10 million, and you're wanting to be done? Yeah, you're going to sell. And when a hedge fund gets in and owns 25, 30, 40% of your law firm and starts making decisions, they're going to make decisions that are in the best interest of the hedge fund. They're not going to make the decisions in the best interest of the client. And the thought that people have that, oh, my relationship with my clients, they'll survive. No, they won't. Look at Neiman Marcus. Look at all these other big boxes that thought that no one could compete with them, and then Amazon came in and shut them down. All the local mom and pops, barbershops, and other things that were put out of business by Walmarts of the world, those folks haven't survived. Now, barbershop's a bad example, but if you had a little local grocery store and Walmart came in and undersold you and had cheaper prices, people just aren't going to come to see you. No matter how much they like you, they're going to go down the street and buy from down the street. And so what's going to happen is this is, in my opinion, the beginning of the end of the golden age of lawyers in the United States. I think that in order for lawyers to make it, they're going to have to become exceptionally efficient. They're going to have to be better than the Amazon law and Apple law, but they're also going to have to be able to get by with making less money. There's just no way we're going to be as profitable going forward when there's people out there just nipping at our heels. So like I said, it's November 7th, 2021, and I'm going to go back into this time capsule of this podcast one day and see if anything I said was right. We're at the tail end of the pandemic right now. And I've been unfortunately predicting what's been happening with the pandemic, when the peaks and valleys are, because if you watch and look at the graphs, it follows along very closely with the 1918-1919 Spanish flu. And if you look at what happened in the medical industry, you look what happened in the retail industry, you look what happened in the taxing industry, that's the history behind that is what's going to happen here. It's going to happen in law, and it's coming. And it's coming, and the lawyers don't even know it. I talked to some really smart lawyers, some people who I think are in the know, and they have no idea what's coming down the pipe. And what's going to happen is it's going to be too late before lawyers start realizing how much the golden ticket of the bar card that we have is going to be diluted, and it's not going to be worth as much. Pretty soon, lawyers that are being pumped out of law school will become cogs in a bigger system of corporations that own law firms. And lawyers will not have any opportunity to buy other than to have maybe stock options within the company. It is going to be more corporatization of law firms than ever before. It's going to be, the dream of owning 10 or 20% of a law firm is just not going to be reality going forward. The dream of being a partner is not going to be that big of a deal. The days of big law being able to offer, $205,000 to first-year associates, that's not going to be around for very long. The days of of the huge salaries for people in big law, that probably won't be around for very long either. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that lawyers who have worked as hard as they have and have set up their lives properly and do the right thing for clients and continue to work hard, I hope that they continue to be successful. But I've never made this before. I've never made the sky is falling prediction or podcast with respect to law, but I see it here. So hopefully I'm wrong. And what you can do as an attorney is, number one, be aware. Follow this. See what's happening in Arizona. See what's happening to lawyers in Arizona. See if their businesses are starting to suffer because of it, because I think you'll see that. See if what the legalzoom effect is going to be. Just so you know, LegalZoom went and did a $6 million partnership with the NBA, and they're now starting to, get in with companies that solo practitioners and small businesses cannot even dream of getting in with, and now they partnered with the NBA. So watch, be aware, see what's happening out there. And second is, you're just gonna, now that you know it's coming, you're gonna have to figure out the way to best position your firm, the way to best position yourself. Are you gonna become one of them and go over into that world? Are you gonna try and become more efficient and do better work? Are you gonna try and live more frugal? What is it that you're gonna do to try and beat this? And again, I'm not saying this is gonna happen tomorrow. I'm not gonna say this is gonna happen next week, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, this is gonna be a monstrous change. And I'm afraid that lawyers just aren't ready for it. So this is Jim Zeta, the Productive Attorney. Hope you have a great day, a great week, and a great year. Thanks.